Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with the story in which Karen wanted to ruin the life of our OP, but was defeated. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Steal from me, I'll ruin your life. So, in high school, 17 and a senior, I took an animation class. Fun, easy class, working with Lightwave 3D 2015. I worked my butt off in every class in order to get a high GPA. I had to. I had a girlfriend, now wife, and a little girl to support, mine and hers. My baby's mom, wifey from now on, stayed home to take care of our girl. You see, wifey didn't want to work, and I didn't want her to have to either, so it worked out. Anyways, I worked my butt off in class and made A-quality work. One day, I was working on a side project for the money, and the teacher walks over. Teacher was 25, so in case you're wondering why he talks the way he does, yeah, CT, chill teacher. CT is chill teacher. CT. OP, I need to talk with you real quick. Me. Sure, what's up? CT. Did you take your recent submission for homework off the internet? Me. No, why would I do that? You know I can't afford the F it could bring me. CT. Karen, not her real name, turned in the exact same thing, and she's not the person who'd steal. So a little backstory on Karen. Karen was a friend's ex between our freshman and sophomore years. They broke up because she was a crazy bee. Karen had a cattail thing she'd wear that clipped to her pants and cat's ears. She wore crap like that a lot, and my friend dodged a bullet because she ended up baby trapping someone third trimester after this happened. My friend, part Mexican, had a crazy Latina friend we'd call his mom, not his mom to be clear, they aren't related, and they got together so he good, in case anyone cared. Me. I got an idea. She'd use a thumb drive to download it. CT. Yeah, me. I'll just make something and leave it in a folder, and hopefully she doesn't open it. Hear that, Karen? All you had to do was open the damn file. CT. It's risky. Me. If she opens it, she'll realize someone's onto her, and if it's her and she doesn't know it, it's her. CT. Do it. I made a file, and I'm still glad I did it. In the file, I had pictures of me, wifey, and BBG. I had pictures of her and my friend when they were together. The icing on the cake, I recorded myself calling her out. She submitted her video. Lo and behold, the end of the try rolls around, and she ended up being the only person in class to fail because she was a thieving C-word. One fail doesn't ruin a life, but this was her fifth. Freshman year, Karen got high instead of doing her homework. On the fifth fail, the school makes you redo the grade you got your fifth in. Rumor has it the guy Karen baby-trapped cut her off. He has money, so kiss my butt, Karen. It may seem a little petty, but she put BBG's future at risk. I couldn't afford to fail. That would have made me ineligible for the scholarship I got to go to college, and wouldn't have been easy to work more to sustain the family. Effing Karen. Nice one. Sounds like even if she'd managed to succeed, she would have just ended up stealing her way through life instead of actually working for anything. And our next story. Want to be a bad neighbor? Say goodbye to your house, property, and marriage. Around 8 years ago, my parents and sister had moved out to the log cabin that we built as a family for 6+ years. They live on a secluded lake and bought 10 acres for themselves, and to the north, another couple bought the 5-acre plot right next to us. We were the only two neighbors next to each other for 1.8 miles. At first, the couple was friendly and had no problems at all. After around 6 months of them living there and building their new home, my parents bought 144 acres to the north of them. This means that his property is sandwiched between our two properties, and since the only way we could get to our land is across his strip of land due to easement laws, he had no problem at first, but one day the trail we used to get to our land to the north was covered, that trail with large logs, branches, yellow tape, and a no trespassing sign. My dad went to go ask what was going on. The owner, we'll call him John, came up to my dad and I and demanded that we give him a 20-yard wide and 400-yard long piece of our property to the north of him. He said he wanted to cut down some trees to the north of him to make sure that none of them fell on his house. This is a thickly wooded area, so of course my dad said no and that he wouldn't even sell this small portion of land that he requested to be given to him free. We'll find out at the end of the story why he wanted this small strip of land so badly. This is where a 5-year crap storm started. Before I mention all the backcrap crazy things he'd done to us over the years, I want to point out that he is a born fraud and took a settlement from the railroad company he worked for due to a back injury that would leave him disabled for life. Not true at all. We found out he sues everyone that gets in his way because his oldest daughter is a lawyer and works the system. Here's a small list of the crap he's pulled, mainly towards my parents, along with others. He had gotten away with everything for 5 years because his daughter tells him how to stay in the clear. Also, he was on his 5th marriage, so not the most likable guy. He slashed the tires of our 2 four-wheelers so we could drive them out to our land to the north on 2 occasions. He shot out and or slashed the tires of our vehicles when we were gone or in the middle of the night. We put up some cameras, but they weren't clear enough to prove it was him. My golden retriever, Bailey, is outside most of the day, and John's dog is also named Bailey. The 2 dogs love to play together, but John didn't like that. He said he'd shoot my dog if he ever went on his property again. After that, weeks later, he would start to yell out to Bailey to lure our dog onto his property. He grabbed my dog by the collar and put a pistol to his head and said he'd kill my dog if he ever came on his property again or played with his dog. We put up an underground electric fence so she wouldn't go over there anymore, even though John would always try to lure her into his yard. On several occasions, he would hit golf balls into our windows and blame it on me since I was a golfer. Once again, everything he did, we could not prove in court. When his house was being built, he went through 3 different contractors because John was threatening to sue every contractor for every little thing, and all 3 contractors left him. When he was getting his driveway poured, he offered to help the contractor, and once again, he was pulling another scam. Where I live, if someone starts helping a contractor with work, there's a weird law that states a contractor would need to pay John for his work if he helped. This went to court, and he got his $10,000 driveway for free, plus took him for another $15,000 for some other bullcrap. We were in the process of finishing up my parents' house, and he stole very specific wood from our place to use in his house. Juniper, diamond willow, thick pine for window bucks, couple $1,000s worth of wood. Once again, we didn't have enough evidence for a search warrant. During Thanksgiving dinner several years ago, our house started on fire due to the stonemason cutting corners and using cheap/wrong parts for our fireplace. Firefighters from 5 cities were dispatched because we live in the country. Due to the amount of fire trucks that were coming and going, John took his truck and parked it sideways on a strip of road that was tight so the firefighters coming and going could not get through. He stated that we were ruining their Thanksgiving due to the commotion of our house burning down and fire truck sirens. The next fire truck that showed up used the force within their rights to plow his truck off the road. John tried to sue us and the fire department for the damage to his truck, but never even made it to court because the fire department had the right to do so. What I listed above only scratched the surface. There's so much more crap that he did to my family that my mom and sister wanted to move because they were afraid of what he might do next. This is where all the pieces started to fall into place to take him down. The spring after our house burnt down, there was a storm and 2 trees from our property fell onto John's lawn, and he called demanding that we remove the trees. We had no equipment at this time and told him we couldn't get to that immediately. So what John did was cut down a 20 by 40 yard area of trees to drag the trees to our property to the north of him. Later, he set the pile of wood on fire and burned down 20 plus more trees and 20 acres of prairie grass. One of the trees that burned to the north was inhabited by a bald eagle. We could confirm the cutting down of 24 trees to drag the fallen trees that were in his yard, but couldn't prove that the fire that was started to burn those sawed-up trees. When I saw that he cut down a number of our trees on our property to the north of him, I took detailed photos of all the cut-down trees and marked the type of tree and how thick the trunks were. Turns out that in my state, there's a monetary value to those trees, and he was screwed. However, when I was marking the trees he cut down, I realized I didn't know where the true property line was. A few weeks later, I found the prints to where the property line was, and he built his house, 5,000 square foot garage, and underground propane tank a few feet onto our property. So now we found out why he wanted that land so bad before we could figure it out. Now, during this time, John had put his house up for sale and put a $120,000 markup on what the actual market price was. We found out why he was doing this because he and a friend had gambled a lot of their savings on buying the property around a lake, and they were selling no lots. He was bleeding money. We were finally able to put a lien on his house, and that was his only lifeline to get cash to make their land payments. To make the rest of this story go by faster, I'll skip to the part where we ended up buying his house. We told him to put the price back down to market value, and then my father said that we could either settle the price of the trees out of court that he cut of ours, and he agreed to settle that in the price of the house. My dad also identified the stolen wood, and we could trace it back to the same unique wood in our house. We'd sue him for that too, or he could drop the price for stealing our materials. Lastly, because John was such an a-hole, my dad used the leverage of the lien we had on his house to drop the value even more. John was bleeding money and was desperate for anything. So in the end, my parents bought his house for 28% of its market value. John's fourth wife would end up leaving him a year later. He filed for bankruptcy, lost his land development area since he was upside down on the payments, and now lives in a cheap studio apartment alone. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.